All right, all right, all right, all right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am James Alva Jr., husband to an amazing wife. I have to say that all the time because my wife looks at my stuff, even though it's true. Husband to an amazing wife, co-founder of the world's cutest twins, co-founder Kabila, which connects Overlook founders to capital customers and co-founders, managing partner of Kabila Ventures, a new venture firm launching soon. So, all right, so I see people are starting to trickle in here. Just tell us where you're coming in from in the comments. And also, as we get into this, please save your questions for the end. We will save 5 minutes and we will do our best to get to as many of them as possible. And, we're here today to talk about how you, as investors, can prioritize the mental wellness of the founders in your portfolio companies. And I'd like to welcome to the stage someone who is an OG investor, my mentor, a sponsor, and friend, Techstars co founder and partner at Foundry, Brad Feld. What's up, Brad?
James,
Good to see you, man. How in the world are you, bud?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah. So I wore my favorite T-shirt today. I thought it was appropriate given the nature of the conversation. What do you think about that?
I like your T-shirt. Do you like mine?
We talked about that. You're not a hug. I do. I mean, I like to hug my family and friends, but people I don't know coming to me and hugging me, I'm not really so keen on that. So yeah, I actually do like your shirt. Oh my God.
Hug someone you love, not everybody else.
Exactly. All right. So we got some folks coming in here, coming in from Atlanta. Hey, Tamara. So actually, Brad Tamara's a Techstars
Hi, Tamara.
alum. Hey, Tamara. All right. So we got a lot of ground to cover in 30 minutes. So let's jump right into it. One of the things that we do, what we can do as investors and founders, is to destigmatize conversations around and about founder mental health. So, Brad, you've been super open in the past about your mental health challenges. Can you talk a little bit about what was going on then and how you handled it, as well as why you chose to discuss it publicly?
Yeah, a couple things. I maybe a little history is useful here for people that don't know me. In my 20s, I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. I had an extreme depressive episode, and I had it while things were okay. Like my business was doing well. The first company I was running, I had some personal stuff going on, and I was trying to figure out who I was, as a 23-year-old, 24-year-old. And in that depressive episode, I decided to get therapy. I had my PhD advisor at the time really encouraged me to try therapy. This would have been in 1990, right around there, 1991. And it was really, really, really helpful to get a diagnosis and actually understand what was going on. If you don't know obsessive compulsive disorder, lots of people will say things like they have OCD or they're OCD-like, and it's a really pernicious disease. It's really difficult. Anybody who says OCD is my superpower doesn't have OCD and hasn't struggled with it.
Mm.
And through 4 or 5 years of therapy, I learned how to deal with OCD and navigate it. But I was incredibly ashamed of it. I was ashamed of doing therapy. I was, again, I was a CEO at the time. I was ashamed of talking to anybody about it. I was ashamed of showing weakness to the people that worked for me. The only two people that knew about really what was going on and the depression that I was struggling with was my girlfriend, then now my wife, Amy Batchelor, and my business partner, Dave Jilk, who to this day is still an incredibly close friend. And I'm not sure they could really help me, but at least, they were supportive. But like I couldn't talk to my parents about it. I was afraid to talk to friends about it. I was basically just afraid of, anybody knowing. Which, if you think about that, actually with OCD, but with a lot of other things around mental health, just makes it worse, right? Because now you're carrying this fear, stigma, shame on top of it all. Over the years, I had a number of depressive episodes. I would put it against the backdrop of having a very successful life, a successful relationship. I rationalized some of them as physiological exhaustion, or specific things that sort of tipped me over into a depressive state. I didn't have a lot of major long ones, that lasted for more than 6 months, but I had a couple that were 6 months long, and I had a lot that were a month or two. And I would rationalize the month or two ones, which often happened at the end of the year, that I just didn't like the end. I didn't like Christmas. I was a Jewish kid who grew up without Christmas. And so I was just grumpy, and, people were taking time off, and I was working, and, bullshit like that. And, but I was depressed, and I was getting, some of it was physiological, some of it was getting worn out, but there was other things going on that I wasn't really dealing with. And that came to a head in 2013. So I was in my late 40s. I've been blogging all the time about all kinds of things, very open about all the stuff that was going on, not just in my work world and things around work, but also in my personal world. And, talking about the dynamics of being a founder, talking about the dynamics of being an investor, the founder-investor relationship, and a lot of personal stuff. I got very depressed. At the time, Foundry was doing great. Techstars was doing great. My marriage was great. I was healthy, generally speaking, physically healthy. I was running a lot, which is one of my favorite things to do. And it just kind of came out of nowhere, sort of. When I traced it back, the previous year, I had absolutely, completely worn myself out. And it started with, in the springtime of 2012, I ran a 50-mile race, which was a lot for me, a lot of training. But then I didn't take any time off. I should have just come home and, worked from home for a month and just chilled. But I was on the road. I was on the road all the time. I continued to travel constantly and also exercise significantly. So again, wearing myself out. I had a very severe bike accident over the summer, at the end of the summer, on a birthday trip for my partner, Seth Levine, his 40th birthday. That really beat me up. But then I came back from Slovenia, where we were, to New York for 3 or 4 weeks with Amy for her birthday month. Her birthday's in September 14th, but we celebrate a whole month of her birthday.
Nice. ...
Right. I just wore myself out. And I went to CES in January, Consumer Electronics Show. And within like 2 hours of showing up at CES, I was like in my room with the shades drawn in Las Vegas with the pillow over my head. Like, I just couldn't deal. One other thing, I ended up having kidney stone surgery at the end of the year because I had a kidney stone, again, a manifestation of all this fatigue that I couldn't pass, and had to have an actual surgical procedure for it. So, as this happened, like, I was blogging every day, and I just kind of decided, fuck it, I'm just going to write about this. Like, if I don't write about this, I'm just being, this whole language around authenticity and transparency, which I think is way overused today.
The language or the doing of it?
The language. I
Okay.
think there's an awful lot of people who say they're being transparent that are not. I think there's a lot of people who say I'm being authentic that are not. I think actually, if you say I'm being transparent, you're probably not being transparent. But in 2013, like, that language still was new and fresh in the context.
Yeah, right. Right.
And so I just like, I'm just going to write about this stuff. So that's how it started. And as I wrote about it, I got inbound from many, many people, 100 people whose names anybody listening here would recognize, who in a lot of cases would say to me, you're the first person I'm comfortable talking to this about, or I've never talked to anybody about this before, or I'm really ashamed that I'm even struggling with this. I don't know what to do with it. And from that emerged this view that one of the things that I would put energy into, which I have over the last decade, is destigmatizing mental health.
Perfect. So Mark Feinberg, who has a comment down there on the screen, he told me,
Mark.
he's a new friend, and he told me he was having an episode and struggling, and he reached out to you, and you didn't even know him, and you were like engaging with him on a regular basis, I think via text or something like that. So I think that's amazing that you were doing that, and I appreciate the language you're using here, because you're kind of stealing some of my thunder with some of my next questions. But let me go, because we only got you for 30 minutes, and we got a hard stop at 12:15. So in addition to my own therapist, when my brains are scrambled, Brad, like when they get really scrambled, bro, like I'm texting you. I'm like, I need to talk to you. Like I call you, and I called you at the start of this journey of being a VC, and I was depressed all of Q3 of 2023 because I'm a brand new VC and I had imposter syndrome, and I talked to you and you got me straight. And I called you recently because this is such a difficult fundraising environment. Largely in part to some of the administrative stuff that's going on. I think we talked about that. It's before we came on. It's hard in this environment. It's probably 5 to 10x harder than normally would be. And I was feeling a little stuck. And you share one of your blog posts with me. Can you talk a little bit about that blog post? And by the way, in case you haven't figured out, there's going to be some cussing on this thing. So I'm sorry, apologize, or you just got to get over it. So talk about that blog post, and I'm just going to put this up on the screen here so people can see what we're talking about.
So the conversation we had, I pointed James that we had recently. I pointed him to this blog post, which I wrote in 2015. And I'll talk about the post for a sec. James, take it down so we're looking at each other.
Okay, sure. How do I? Here we go. Yep. Sorry.
People saw it. I'll talk about the post, but I'll talk more about like how I react when somebody reaches out to me when they're struggling, because I think that's probably a useful thing too, which is how do you help? How do you engage? What's a good way to be useful? And then I actually can give an example of something that's going on right now if you're interested. That blog post, my work as an investor, as a VC, I'm on a bunch of boards, and I've been through some really rough stretches, both with companies, but also broadly, like the internet bubble bursting was really hard. The global financial crisis had a lot of hard moments in it, across everything, not just in a single company. And I've sort of come to the conclusion that every day something new is going to be fucked up in my life. New,
not old.
No, a new
messed
thing.
Up stuff. New.
A new thing somewhere that's going to appear that's fucked up. And by about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, if it hasn't revealed itself yet, I start to get curious. What it's going to be. Like I reframed my thinking around it. Instead of like being oppressed by all of these new, like endless problems. It's like, all right, another problem. Let's go figure it out. So I have a parable of someone called Milarepa in the post, and I encourage people to go read the blog post.
Yeah, go to feld.com.
Yeah. And the parable is one where Milarepa is sitting in a cave, and he's surrounded by demons, and he's trying to shoo him out of the cave. I'll do the quick version of it. Trying to shoo him out of the cave, and like more demons keep showing up when he's shooing him out of the cave. It's not working. Mm-hmm. And so he finally is like, that's not working. So he says, you know what, I'll just be with these demons. I'll just sit here with the demons. And once he decides to just be with the demons, pop, 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 they all disappear, except one. The really big giant one, right? The scariest of all these demons. And he looks at the demon and he says to the demon, he puts his head in the demon's mouth and he says, eat me if you wish. And the demon goes, boop. Right. And the metaphor is like, confront your demons. Like, don't try to get rid of them. Don't try to suppress them.
Yeah.
Just not even confront them. Accept them. Accept that they're there.
And honestly, Brad, this works because after we talked and you shared this with me and I read the post, I did that for the next 2 or 3 days and I just felt better.
Yeah. I mean, the world's a hard place. Life is challenging. A friend of mine that is my dad's age had a kid that was my age who died when he was 20. And I was sitting with the guy and he was talking about his kid who had died, whatever. I was probably in my 40s by then, 20 years ago. And he just looked at me and he says, Brad, life is a fatal disease. And, it's cliche, but
yeah,
kind of good. Like, it really, it's hard. And
it is.
I've subsequently found a whole bunch of cliches around that. The chemists like to say life is a process of continuous oxidation. Like there's a whole bunch of fun ones.
Yeah.
But this notion of like the experience is not one that is a straight positive line. And when you are in these tough places, like just being with it often makes it lighter and easier.
Yeah. So another thing that you said to me when I called you a while ago, you said, I think I was just, obsessing over, what happens if I can't get this fund launched and all this kind of stuff. And, and you're like, so what? Like you said, they can't kill you and they can't eat you. And I'm just like, fuck right. They can't kill me, eat me. Like when you said that, like I immediately felt better. It's true. I think I told my son that same thing the other day about something that can't kill you, they can't eat you. So I appreciate that you bring these things to the table, man. So it's super helpful. If I may, Brad, I have a video I want to play from Jessie Zalia. She's the founder of a startup called Twerk, Think Tinder for Jobs. And I started on LinkedIn this new video series to do exactly what you just said, to normalize, to destigmatize these conversations around founder mental health. And I just wanted to play this for everybody. So stand by here.
Hey, James, I'm really glad that you posted this question, and I will give you my own personal experience. So first of all, I went ahead and I am a recipient of the Kabila Mental Health Foundation grant for some free mental health, which was really great. That got me started on getting therapy as a founder and for founder issues. And I know that I was really hesitant to do that because I was afraid I was taking somebody else's spot. I really didn't want to do that. So it could be possible that other founders are feeling the same way. Also, I know that when I ran an Innovate and Invest event where we had a bunch of women tech founders and investors in the same room, this was brought up for a very short period of time. Somebody asked a question to our panel, and one of our founders who was a speaker, she mentioned about, founder suicide, and the whole room kind of, went quiet, which is fine. But it was, I don't want to say she was treated as though it was like taboo, because she wasn't necessarily treated in any way. It was just met with total silence. But I think that is something that needs to be talked about. And I had a friend who committed suicide, and it's like, it doesn't have to, sometimes you feel like you're in a big black hole and you feel very isolated and you're afraid to reach out. You're afraid that other people will judge you. You're afraid that investors won't take you seriously and they'll think that you don't know what you're talking about and that you're unstable or something. So that's, I think that might be a reason why people don't reach out, but I'm very thankful for your foundation and for everything that you do.
Before I go to the next thing, what's your quick reaction to that, Brad?
Awesome.
It's good, right?
If you use the through line from, my comment of destigmatizing mental health, and especially destigmatizing mental health around issues of entrepreneurship and leadership, people just talking about it, just being willing to say out loud,
yeah, man,
is a huge part of it. And,
yes.
Once you have enough people talking about it out loud, all of a sudden, a lot more people aren't afraid of talking about it out loud. And yes, there will always be people who, there will always be people who can't do that or won't do that. There will always be people who are, negative about it. Yeah. But there's a whole bunch of people in the middle who are struggling with whatever their issues are. And better for people to wander up and say, you know what, it's okay that I'm dealing with this, versus think of the large number of people in society. I mean, I personally think everybody has shit. Like we're all fucked up in some way.
Yeah, we all got stuff going on, 100%.
The category of people who address their issues, who look inward and who concentrate on understanding what happened and what's causing them to behave in ways that are counterproductive, non-productive, unhealthy. Those people, my view, have much better lives over a long arc.
Yeah.
Contribute much more meaningfully, learn how to work with and help people in a constructive way than people who don't deal with their crap.
1000%.
And if they don't deal with their crap over a long period of time, they just perpetuate their own misery and whatever their struggles are, and never really learn themselves. And I think that's a miss in this thing we call life.
1000%. So I'm going to put up this. I did a non-scientific poll and asked founders how they would rate their mental health on LinkedIn. And 71% said it was poor or fair. And I mean, that tracks with me. I'm sure that tracks with you, Brad. But you and Amy recently gave me a $25,000 grant to start the Kabila Founder Mental Health Fund to provide free mental therapy for founders who want it but can't afford it. You heard Jessie say she was one of. We've been doing this for about 8 weeks now, and every week we do that for one founder. Can you talk about why you did that, Brad? You kind of already have, but just succinctly.
Oh yeah, but briefly, one, I think what you've done in a couple of different dimensions, going back we've known each other almost a decade. My experience is that you put a huge amount of energy into the things you care about, and you frankly way over deliver relative to the resources that you have in terms of the dollars and the time. And so when you brought up this idea to me, it was an easy yes, because I knew that what you would do would influence a lot of people, that you would follow through on it, and that it would essentially continue to amplify addressing this issue in a way that was not like, prognostication or like advice, but actually like functional help for people that were really struggling.
Well, I like to get shit done, so.
Good way. That was more succinct than what I.
It's not gonna be a bunch of flowery nonsense and a bunch of talking and all this, right? I'm gonna go and actually do something to help some people. I think that's what you're getting at, right?
Bingo.
All right, cool, man. So I'm gonna we're here to talk about some of the things that investors could do. So one of the things you can do is support. You can support the Kabila Founder Mental Health Fund. You could go make a deduction, a donation. $150 gives a founder 2 mental therapy sessions. Or if they don't want to use BetterHelp, we will reimburse up to $300 if they want to use their own mental health provider, their own therapist. So please feel free to go join there, go there and make a donation. So Tamara said, so true. So Tamara, actually, she's been open on LinkedIn. I love Tamara. She got one of the grants too for mental therapy. So we got, like Brad, we're actually like really helping people, man. People are struggling, founders are struggling, but they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to get the help. They always, there's a reason why they don't want to do it. But, if somebody offers you help and you're a founder, take it. Like, you deserve it. So please take it. And so breaking news is our fund is getting a grant from the Techstars Foundation, thanks to Techstars CEO David Cohen. And we're going to provide free mental therapy grants to Techstars founders, to 65 Techstars founders over the next 12 months. I'm super excited about that, man. How good is that?
Fabulous.
So good. All right. So, once I launch Kabila Ventures, we're going to make therapy accessible to all of our portfolio company founders. And in the meantime, and when we do that too, we have a broad ecosystem of founders, and we're going to make it available for them. We want to do more. So please, put the ticker back up. Like, please go make a donation here. And we want to do more. We will do more. We want to scale this thing up. I figured out how to operationalize mental therapy grants and do it in a way that people can get a tax deduction from making a donation, which I think is pretty awesome. It wasn't easy, but I figured out how to do it. So stoked about that. All right. So Brad, I'm gonna take this down. And Brad, we only have 6 minutes left here. Before we take questions, is there anything else that you would like to add?
Just briefly, like everybody that's listening to this, super appreciate engagement around this issue. And I think the more people who are able to talk about the issue or the dynamic that we all struggle with different things, and founders have incredibly challenging experiences. And when you have an incredibly challenging experience, the best people to get to talk to about it is other founders who share your point of view or worldview. So building, as James, as you're building a network of other founders who are comfortable with talking about mental health issues, just keep it expanding. Like, the more of that there will come a point where mental health is not, it's not that the issue will go away, but the stigma associated with it, and I've even seen this in the last 5 years, has really diminished. It's no longer like a thing nobody wants to talk about. So thanks for the help and the amplification and the engagement, even if you're in the middle of your own struggles. Very powerful.
100%. So So very quickly, y'all, before we get to the comments, questions. So in my event follow-up email, I'm going to include 4 things. One is a link to Brad's new book, Give First, The Power of Mentorship. I'm going to write another book here, Brad, and I would love to, it's going to be around for overlooked founders, how to increase their social capital. I would love for you to add a chapter to that. So his new book, I'll put a link to that. A link to a way for you to share your your views or on founder mental health as an investor, like we did with Jesse there. I'll put that in the email. A link to become a donor to the Kabila Founder Mental Health Fund, and a link to book time with me if you want to learn more about what I'm up to at Kabila Ventures. So there's that. All right. So now, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat. Like, Brad's amazing, and it's not every day you get a chance to ask him a question. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to drop those in the chat. And in the meantime, Brad, I was super excited to see that you are going to be on the panel for the Conscious Entrepreneurship Summit.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I think that's next week or the week after.
Yeah, it's coming up soon with Alex Raymond. I did an event with Alex to promote it. And so I was a panelist about 2 years ago up in Boulder, and that was my first time in Boulder. And despite having known you for 10 years prior, we met for breakfast. You were jogging.
Yeah.
And we met in person for the first time. And that was so amazing.
Well, and you caught me at the tail end of a run, right? Didn't I? I did a run, and I ended up at Snooze, and then we sat and we had some breakfast together, and it was lovely. Beautiful day. Yeah,
we did. All right. So it doesn't seem like anybody has any questions here. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes of your time back because I know you got to run. You got to go a meeting to go to. So thanks everybody for tapping in. We really appreciate the comments. And Brad, I love you, brother, like a fat kid loves cake, man. I'll be talking to you soon.
See you soon.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Everyone.
Bye. Bye.